Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this short video, I wanted to tell you a story about this Niner SIR9 4-star build that I just recently bought. I got a great deal on it, I think. This is a 2020 model, which goes for around $4,300 new, believe it or not. And I picked it up for $1,000. And that sounds really great, and it is great, but I want to tell this story about how it's actually, there's a lot more to it than that. You know, you think you're picking up a nice clean bike, but in reality, you know, oftentimes people are selling their bikes or mountain bikes because there's something wrong they don't feel like fixing or they don't feel like paying to fix. So I want to go over all the things that were wrong with this bike that I finally have all dialed in perfectly, at least as far as I can tell at this point. So first thing I knew right away is the front tire, actually both tires were flat when I got it. So the front tire was flat, but it also wasn't holding air. So when I brought the bike home, it had the, by the way, it had the cush core in it, which I've since taken out. So it was rideable, but it was not holding air. So anyway, I pumped it up, left the front and the back overnight, and the back was still full, the front was totally flat. So no big deal, took the tires off. I've never dealt with tubeless before, but I got the, I don't know where it is, there it is. I bought some sealant, watched a bunch of YouTube videos, figured it out. I don't have a compressor. It turns out, just as a tip, you can use the CO2 cartridges to seat your bead. Is that the right word? Seat the rim, the tire onto the rim, no problem. Worked actually really easily. I put in, everything went exactly to plan, no problem. So I got that taken care of. I went ahead and did the same to the back, even though it was holding air because the sealant in the front was totally dry and stuff. So I did the same to the back. It's been holding air for over a week now, no problem. So that's first thing. Had to spend $30 on sealant, a couple other items, CO2s, so probably good $40 right there just to get the tires set up. This was the saddle that it came with, which is actually a very nice and expensive kind of time trial style saddle. I think it's like $400 new or something. Maybe I'm mistaken, but it's really expensive. Carbon fiber rails and all that. But I hated it. It totally didn't fit me or something. I just couldn't stand it. So I took it off and replaced it with this WTB Gravellura. That's what it's called, Gravellura. I'm liking it. It's really good. I bought the stainless steel rail, so it's like 60 bucks. It's not super expensive, but it's not too heavy either. Anyway, so this thing I'm selling, I'm trying to get anything I can for it. The thing is like the carbon is starting to, I don't know, delaminate or what that is, but I have it up for like 50 bucks and nobody seems to be interested. So there you go. That's whatever. Changed the saddle to one I liked. The bars were like 800 millimeters wide, too wide for me. They are carbon fiber. I did cut them down to 750. There's some marks on there saying like don't go any shorter than 750. So they're now down to 750. Not a big deal. Got that taken care of. What else? I also changed, I don't really like this stem cap, but I don't even like these either, but it had like gold ones before and I was just like, this is too much gold. So I bought some cheap things off eBay, spacers off eBay. So now it doesn't look that great either because this doesn't match. So probably have to find something better, but at least it's not so much gold. The next thing though, the big thing is the creaky cranks. Ever since I bought it, I knew two things were kind of screwed up with it. It wasn't shifting too well, and the bottom bracket or whatever, something down here was creaking. So this is a threadless bottom bracket, which isn't really what I like or most people like, but it should work, you know. And so I took everything off. I had to end up buying a bearing puller kit off Facebook, I think, for, I don't know, 50 bucks. Cha-ching. So I bought that and pulled the bearings out, and everything looked really good, really factory, really nice, no issues. And so I put everything back together, also no problems doing that. Then I learned about this this bearing preload ring. So it was totally loose, first of all, but I figured out how to get that correct, set that up correctly after some, you know, YouTubing. It's very, very easy, basically. Oops, let me see if we can get focused on it. Basically, you just, it's a threaded unit, so you just thread it and then tighten it down where it needs to be. You just, by hand with your finger, you know, tighten it down. No issue. Now, I eventually figured out what the problem was, and that is that the chain ring wasn't tight. There's a chain ring, there's a bolt on the other side after I had everything apart, and it was loose. Because I put everything, by the way, I put everything back together, and it was still clicking. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. So I took out the crankset only, left the bearings in, and realized the chain ring was not tight on the crank. Simple, no problem. I just used, where is it? I don't know. It's like this, here it is. This 22 spine tool, super easy, tightened it down. I think it says 30 Newton meters. I don't have a torque wrench, so I just kind of gave it a pretty tight fitment, and now it's totally silent. Excellent. Next thing, it wasn't shifting that good. It was skipping gears and just kind of not quite right. This is a Shimano XT 12 speed, and it just wasn't shifting good. You know what the problem was? The cable was routed wrong. I kind of thought so when I looked at it, and I'm like, isn't it supposed to go this way? I mean, it's not obvious which direction, but then I looked at some YouTube videos, of course, and yes, it's supposed to go this way. So I put a new cable in, routed it the correct way, and did the adjustments, and now it's shifting perfectly. Last thing, the cables were just, they're still not perfect, but they were a total mess. Like the way they were routed was horrible. They were just kind of like all over the place. Didn't have these, so I spent some time tying the cables down with some zip ties right there. Then I made this little zip tie sandwich I seen someone do before. That works pretty good. So I have the mount here, the sandwich here, the mount here, the sandwich here, another mount here, and then I put these ones down here just to keep them together. Also because it's still close, but before I put that little tie thing there, this was actually touching the chain ring, and you can see it has a little chewed away bit. Luckily it's not broken through, and I think now it's keeping itself in a good position, a good enough position. So, a lot of things ended up having to fix. It looks much, much better now. And by the way, another tip I learned on the Facebook group for this bike is you can use fingernail clippers at the end of your zip tie to make them nice and not sharp. So I did that, and now it's nice and it's not sharp. So that's all the things I had to do. I mean, I probably have 3 or 4 hours of labor and internet searching and YouTube video watching to get this thing. And by the way, parts, purchasing probably $60, $70, I don't know, of parts, several hours of work, internet searching and actual work. And now finally this $1,000 bike is in good, nice riding condition. So it's just, this video is just a little warning to everybody in a way, or a cautionary tale. When you buy what looks like a beautiful, perfect, bike, it's only a few years old, 4 years old, bikes aren't always perfect. People don't set things up right. They didn't set this up right. I don't know how this person, the previous owner, was ever riding. It must have been horrible. This was totally loose. The chain ring was like loose. They had cables touching the chain ring. Flat tire, just so many things were wrong with the bike. It's amazing the condition it was in. And at first glance it looked fine, and that's lucky. That's nothing bad. That's not like a crack in the frame. That I did check before I purchased it. I kind of flipped the bike over, just looked at the bottom bracket. I didn't want to crack it. You see any kind of cracks at any junctions. Of course it's hard to inspect like in great detail while you're like in a parking lot, which I was. But I kind of looked, for anything obvious, and I didn't see anything. But, it's just adjustment kind of things that it needed, really. I mean, I didn't know it, but I didn't need to buy that. I didn't need to take the bearings out at all. Turned out it was just this, and I already had the tool for it. So, it is what it is. So it's just a warning to everybody out there. When you get a used bike, you're gonna, spend a few hours getting it set up, or take it to a shop, and you're probably gonna spend like $100 getting the parts on it you want, or sealant, or what have you. So that's just the reality of buying a used bike. I always buy used bikes pretty much. I just can't afford, or want to afford, refuse to afford. I seen somebody write on one of my comments, a new bike. It's just too expensive. But I'm a big fan of buying used bikes, but you do have to know, you're gonna have to do some work and put some money into it. So that's all I wanted to say in this video. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll talk to y'all next time.